Welcome to Creative Human, where we have deep conversations with creative people on how to ascend and how to adapt in a changing world. I'm your host, Tom Martin. Today's guest is an awesome guest, Mr. Andy Torres. Andy and I go way back to our days at Let It Fly Media, where I knew him as an amazing videographer and editor, not a VFX artist, which he is today. Since leaving Let It Fly, Andy has established himself as one of the premier VFX artists out there. He has done everything from working for FIFA to the Kansas City Chiefs and helping bring their Super Bowl ring to life, to helping really craft and deliver the Grammys show open. You've also maybe noticed his work with Stranger Things and the Indiana Fever. He's everywhere. But it wasn't always so simple for Andy when he was first getting into this line of work. There was a lot to learn and figure out as a solo freelance operator, and now there's obviously so much to figure out and adapt to with the emerging AI tools. And especially as a VFX artist, I'm very curious for Andy's perspective on how to navigate all this and understand what could be useful for him versus what is maybe out to try to displace him. For the record, Andy is not all that worried, and I tend to agree with him. Andy Torres, former co-workers, colleagues back in the old Let It Fly Media days, and now just crushing it as a VFX artist in Los Angeles. You've won multiple Emmy Awards. Your client list is probably the envy of many people listening to this or watching this, from FIFA to doing a Super Bowl ring for the Chiefs to being part of the Grammys intros. You have had a really cool career, man. It's great to be talking with you. Great to be looking back a little bit, but also looking forward. But as always, I want to open up with the most important question of this podcast to kind of see which way we go, which is, Andy Torres, what makes you a creative human?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Very, very cool to catch up again. And yeah, thanks for the kind words. Couldn't do it without my teammates and other collaborators. So yeah, but what makes me a creative human? Was that the question?
That is the that is the question on this podcast.
The question of the hour. Okay, and this will, I guess, affect what path we take the conversation. Okay,
maybe, I don't know. It depends. If you had to, by the way, you're the first person to interrogate the question, so this is fun. Yeah. But broadly speaking, what makes you a creative human?
Okay, yeah, for sure. Okay, so I thought about this a lot. And I would say at the very core, it's the process of learning and seeing that every pixel of whatever product or video, graphic, whatever it is, piece of writing is 100% intentional is what makes me a creative human. That's the core of it.
Unpack that. I want to go one bit further on that answer. Tell me why that's your answer. What does that mean to you?
Because I feel like, because I don't want to jump ahead into the conversation towards the middle with AI, but I feel like just the amount of control you have as a human to express what your vision is. Not based on algorithms, not based on, other digital entities, but just you and your brain, your human brain, is what made me say that answer, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. It's a very topical way of putting it right now. And yes, of course, we will talk AI at some point. Probably more so me and you, Andy, because we've had some fun calls and texts on this subject, so it's very much top of mind for you and me. Before we get there, I first just want to start off on introducing viewers to more about how you have gotten to be in this awesome position you're in, which is creating and performing as a VFX artist and 3D artist for so many amazing teams and brands. But just give me some backstory, some bullet points on where you got your creative start and how it evolved from there.
Yeah, for sure. No, so first of all, I'm first generation Mexican-American from Arkansas, so I started there doing creative for actually the University Arkansas band, doing motion graphics. If we're going all the way back,
no, that's great.
So that's where I started doing it. And moving ahead, I interned at the Chiefs doing video editing and shooting. So that's where I got my sports part. and then went to an agency which is where we met. Actually, no, we met at the Chiefs because, as the viewers know, you were a reporter back then, right?
I was a local news sports guy, so I was trying to like be cool like you guys who worked for the teams. And we crossed paths a few times at press conferences trying to stake our claim for tripods and getting a good shot.
I was going to say, Tom was very notorious for like trying to get as center to the whole room as possible. And we'd be like, okay, we actually work internal. So
you're like, we're the Chiefs. Who's this guy? We're the Chiefs.
This guy. But I get it. Hey, but that's what I like about Tom. You know, you just got to go for the shot. So I admire that for sure. But that's where we met. So I interned at the Chiefs for a season, and shortly after that, freelance for maybe like another 2 months. Then went back to Arkansas, and then went back to Kansas City for Let It Fly Media, which is where we both eventually started working. Although you beat me to it by like 2 weeks.
I beat you by a week. By 1 week, which is so funny.
And
I think they wanted
only because I wanted to spend time with family birthday, I think, or something.
I think they wanted you to join before they were way more sold on you than me, and then I just snuck in there, so I get to be like, "Yo, I'm number 4 at Let It Fly Media."
Yeah, exactly. And
Andy was number 5.
Oh man, but that's where we met. Did a lot of fun stuff there. Stayed there for about 2.5, almost 3 years. This was, I think, I started during almost COVID times, pandemic, 2020, 2019. And then after 2.5, 3 years, I found that I was really diving a lot more into VFX, specifically 3D animation, and just took off from there. I thought, if I'm okay being at this certain freelance salary range just on my own, I'm okay to just just cut a lot of expenses if it stays like that for freelancing. But I want to see how far I can push this if I do just dive in. So it was a hard decision for sure. I think I've talked to a lot of friends, and I was debating whether or not to quit and pursue freelance for about maybe 6 to 8 months. So it took me that long to actually go for it.
I could tell. Now we're here. I could tell when you were latter days of Let It Fly Media, which was such a special place for both of us. I feel like we learned a ton, and we were afforded the ability to learn a ton and explore a ton. And it was just fun building something, right? But I remember like later days there, you are one of the most energetic, team-oriented people I know, which is why I think it's interesting that you're a freelancer on your own. But you are, and you looked so not in the room when we would be all together. And I'm like, he's thinking about other things. And you were like, you had this big grand vision for this. And, I'm curious, when you made the decision to leave an agency and go solo, what was it that, once you made that decision, what did you find?
I wouldn't say I was, unhappy at work. It was more like, oh, but like this thing that I'm doing on the side is really, really fun. And it's like very niche, because especially back then, 3D animation in sports as a social campaign wasn't really a thing. Now it's everywhere, especially now with AI again, but bringing it back, it wasn't really a thing. So I'm like, okay, let's see how far I can push this. And I guess the part where I was more quiet was because I was thinking, okay, should I do this or not? Because I feel like the regret of not trying would be worse than doing it and failing. So why not just go for it?
I feel you there.
But it was tough, because the teammates were great at Let It Fly, and the camaraderie for sure. And important note that you made about being energetic and really feeding off of teammates, and because now I am a freelancer doing solo, but I'm still working on something for next year, so stay tuned.
Ooh, okay. If you want to reveal anything or announce anything here, you're more than welcome to. You also don't have to. I'm curious, what's it like to go from working with a team to working by yourself?
Yeah, at first it was very non-organized, I would say, as far as the admin part goes. I just wanted to, just get in there, do the work, and collaborate with these teams, individual people, other freelancers, to make these crazy visuals come to life. And then what I thought was just, oh, do the work, send an invoice, and W-9, that's it. But it was a lot more than that. And I learned the hard way when it came to tax season, especially when I went to New York. It was a lot, but eventually figured it out thanks to my other teams at H&R Block. Shout out, not an ad, but they should sponsor me too. Um, but yeah, I guess if I was to do it again, I would really learn, okay, what are the essentials to starting a business properly? Because I did file for LLC. This is probably getting too deep into the weeds, but I would probably really look at the business side before diving into, okay, should I do this freelance full time?
I I actually want to go back a little further because you are one of the best shooters and editors with real footage that I have ever worked with. And when you started to move into a different interest, when you really started thinking, hey, I can create worlds here and I can do 3D and I'm doing this more and more and more and more. First of all, how did you learn how to do it? Second of all, why did you put the time in required to get good at it? Just tell me about the genesis of that interest for you.
Yeah, I think for me it was more like I wanted to get shots that weren't currently possible during that era back in 2018, 2019. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the FPV drones were really like kicking off into mainstream, but not like fully out there where everyone's doing it. I see it everywhere, which is great. So I love watching those videos. But so that was the initial thing, just like, oh, if I can just like recreate, let's say, a concert venue, but I want an FPV inside that venue. Obviously, we can't fly over people, especially indoors, so in that tight. So I was thinking, okay, how can we do this? And then I found out about Cinema 4D, Blender, Unreal Engine, all those other programs. And I was like, okay, I'll just pick one. Took some courses, and long story short, just experimented. And the way I learned actually was at at Letterfly. There's our guy Dakota. He is a great teacher for sure, super talented guy. But I love the way he teaches too, and encourages us to just pursue and try new things. So with that in mind, he was like, "Oh, what if we do this series called Weekly Trash?" And so the way I got better was, oh, I want to do that. And so basically, what Weekly Trash was, me, Dakota, back at the time, me, Dakota, Aaron, were given a prompt like, okay, make funny prompt with AI. But we were like, okay, wow, this is okay, crazy. We were like, okay, I want you to create something that has glass, just three random elements: glass, table, water, and we would just render out something and challenge our brains. And that's how I learned, just doing random images in Cinema 4D weekly, maybe twice a week, 3 times a week. And yeah, just that iteration of like learning, which is why I said earlier, what makes me a creative human is that process of learning and seeing that every pixel that I did make was 100% intentional.
You just dove into how your skills kind of came together. How did the business come together for you where you start working almost immediately with really awesome world-renowned clients, and you've made new relationships, you've kept those relationships. What was your approach to going from, I like to do this, to I can make a good business out of this?
I've been very fortunate to pretty much work off of word of mouth. And it's been like that pretty much since I went freelance. Shout out Chris Ramirez from the Chicago Bulls. He really gave me the first opportunity. And it really came down to just one DM, not even asking for anything. I think he posted something about a shoot at the Bulls, and I just commented, yo, this looks sick. And then he was like, hey, I've been meaning to reach out. Let's hop on a call for a project. And that's just how it went. Like, I had no intent to like pitch back then. Even now, well, that's getting ahead of myself, but even now I haven't really pitched. Just been, taking in work, helping, teams accomplish their visions. Obviously with collaboration, I'm giving ideas here and there. But as far as like a 100% Andy Torres vision, I haven't pitched that yet. So I'm still learning the business side of that. I've taken courses. Shout out Austin Saylor. He has background on him. He's a motion designer that has consistently made, I believe, 200K a year. So I was like, you know what? He has the backing. Let me learn from him. And his thing is, network. And I could talk, more about that. But those courses, I'm learning a lot about business and connecting with you, connecting with other freelancers that have been in the space for a little bit is really helping a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. And your work, you can immediately point to it all the time. It's something where me as a producer, I sometimes have to do some explaining, which is never fun. Oh, here's why I'm valuable. You get to say, look at this. Did you like that? Okay, great. I can create something with you that builds off of that premise of talent and ability. But when you are, Andy, kind of working project to project, and when you're starting fresh on a new vision, what's your process like? How do you usually like to work when it comes down to taking something from scratch to seeing it out there fully formed?
I create a lot of animation and VFX packages. So a lot of it is collaborating with the teams or agencies, visualizing ideas if they don't have like a creative vision, but visual idea, but just a creative vision, building environments, directing. And as far as the pipeline goes, I feel like 80% there now to like what I really like. But currently I'm managing, a few freelancers, coordinating through tools like Slack. I just got Airtable and made that like fully customized, Frame.io, and just like automating things, just to navigate these crazy deadlines with, especially sports teams. It's funny. I just hopped off a car earlier, and they were asking for a deadline in like 2 weeks, and they apologized every time, like it's a fast turnaround. Sorry about that, but I would say like don't worry about it. I'm used to this. This is sports. This is the nature of sports. So
like they don't get to decide. Things
exactly.
have to happen sometimes.
So like creating a system or systems actually to accommodate that kind of deadline and this kind of industry is just going to pay off, even if later down the line I steer away from these fast-paced deadlines. I want to have some sort of system for the just in case. But yeah, currently stepping into more of a creative direction rather than doing everything myself, just because, burnout is a real thing. So I'm still navigating that, even though this year was a lot better. This year was a lot better in regards to, taking time off purposely. It was still a lot.
What is the shift like from being the creator to directing the creative?
Man, it's tough. I actually just had a conversation on the way to the airport yesterday, and I said it's just really, really hard to just let things go and trust other people to do the work, not fully for you, but pretty much for you. I feel like me specifically, I'm going to still like animate, the scene, probably just like with blocks and whatever, just to give the artist, a general direction of where I want things to be. But I feel like, and because clients have said this, that people approach me because of my specifically camera animation, which is funny because that's my favorite part. Like everything else is fun still, but
yeah,
man, it's just like the camera animation, and that's where, like you said earlier, you like how I shoot things and edit things. That's where I like doing stuff too, of just shooting. So it just makes sense that my camera animation is, the top tier part of my visual effects.
You notice when you're in a VFX project that the same instincts are showing up from when you used to hold a camera? Do you think that's a helpful skill to have before you suddenly put the camera down? Is to understand how it would be done in real life?
100%. Yeah. Especially because comparing myself to other motion designers where they're like technically way better at me, I feel like their cameras are maybe a little too A, B, if that makes sense.
It does.
Too linear.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just spend way too long in Cinema 4D, just like purposely adding like a bump to the camera here and there. Where now there's plugins, thankfully, but even so, that feels robotic. So I just purposely mess with the curves and just make it a lot more human. Hence, human podcast.
Hey, what a name drop. That was clinical, my friend. I want to shout out. This is always one of my favorite parts of these interviews. Is give me a really great work story. Give me a great story about a project or how it came together or what it was. What do you got for me this time?
I would say my favorite. Well, I'm not gonna pick favorites, but a really fun one this year, 2025, was a collaboration with the Indiana Fever team and Stranger Things.
This is at the top of
July?
your Instagram right now, pretty much. It is. Go to Andy Torres' Instagram and you'll see this. It's awesome.
Dude, that was so fun. Just because, obviously, I've been watching this show since I don't know how many years it's been. We've seen the actors grow up, but it was cool to work with that IP and collaborate with the internal team to come up with this creative direction. But yeah, so that project, I got to do a lot of creative directing. Led the visual concept between that IP and merging it with the WNBA. Designed the look and feel, not fully obviously because it's Stranger Things, like what Stranger Things is, but it was cool to come up with, I'm not sure what these terms are, but those I guess lighting sheets to hand off to the production company so they can see, okay, we need this sort of light over here, we need that here. So for example, the top of their heads are like rim lit with red. So to mimic that and make it blend more in 3D, I have those red lights coming from that same direction.
The attention to detail required of a VFX artist blows my mind. It absolutely blows my every type of fabric or how water looks in the ocean or, whatever it is, the amount of things that I feel like have such an attention to detail for. How do you do it? Because to me, I think I'm detailed, but that stuff is even probing a different level of detail. And I feel like for being someone who is creative, sometimes people go, well, that must mean you're not detail oriented, but you are creative as hell and very detail oriented. What's it like inside your mind when you're creating a VFX artist project?
Man, so specifically for like CGI environments, I purposely add imperfections. So I guess that's where the detailing comes in. Otherwise, it's going to look too bland, too CGI, too 3D. Obviously, you can tell it's CGI, but I like to steer away from fully on fantasy and bring it more towards like real life, more, I guess, human, more down to earth. As far as I can, even so, I think once I deliver the files, I rewatch all of them just because like I'm obsessed, like you said, with details to make sure that everything looks good. And then I found a mistake in one render, so small in the very back, like one graphic wasn't updated in one banner, but you can't even tell. But I'm like, this is gonna bother me. And if I see it online, I'm gonna say that's a mistake. I'm gonna fix it. So I made the computer render for another 4 hours, sent it to the client, said, hey, there's a quick mistake I found, but should be good. I don't know if I answered the question, but
yeah, no, it does. I mean,
yeah, I'm obsessed with details.
I think clients who it's one thing to understand what someone is like to work with or to hire based on their work. But then to understand how you think means that you're kind of putting towards them this extra layer of trust that it's not just about like the work I've done before. I'm always going to stay on top of what needs to be done to achieve your goals, which if you as a listener can ever exude that to a client, it is very difficult for them to ever walk away from you, because that just goes such a long way, thinking on their behalf as much as what's in your best interest. Andy, quickly, what is some career advice that you've gotten that you think is pretty underrated, that you think more people should abide by or listen to?
Underrated?
Underrated first. What is underrated career advice, especially in the type of work that you're in?
Underrated. I would say make work for fun. Even though I haven't taken that advice in the past 3 years since I left to go full-time freelance, I do want to start making more things for fun. Just because going back to my roots, that's where pretty much how I learned, where and how far I can take things. Whether that's even deeper with 3D, other VFX tools, other AI tools, and just doing things for fun, just experiment and you see what's out there. Collaborate with other creatives for sure. That's one thing I do miss. So when I do get the opportunity to bring on another artist or a couple artists, those are the projects that I have most fun with. Like that's why this Stranger Things one was one of my top 3. I'm not gonna say pick favorites, but that's why it was a really, really fulfilling one too. Just because I got to work with other humans and physically be on set. I believe it's my first shoot actually to be on set as the VFX supervisor. So that was really, really, really neat.
Give me a piece of advice that you feel is overrated, that people say too much, and you're like, I don't know, dude, that maybe doesn't resonate with me.
It depends on the industry, but this is the one I see a lot because I scroll a lot. Is just post every day. I feel like quality over quantity is definitely where it's at. But again, it depends on the industry you're in. I would say if you are a content creator, influencer, I can see why you would want to post every day. So that's where, batching content comes in, and, there's different ways of doing it. But funny enough, I actually should be posting more. I haven't posted since July. I think the Stranger Things was the last one I posted. Even though I've done another handful of projects, I haven't gotten the chance to post it. So I would say, post every day is, I feel like, overrated.
Maybe when you're done with this podcast that I'm taking time away from you for posting for, you can go post something. That could be a possible solution. Andy, let's talk about AI and what it means for creative people, what we're seeing right now, what we can expect or try to guess is coming in the future. But first and foremost, I would just love to know how you are using it right now. Before we get into qualifying what's good and what's not, how are you using AI right now?
For sure. No, there's definitely, a lot of places where we can take this conversation, but I'm currently using it as because I text you every day, like, oh, yo, check this thing out. Check what model just dropped, blah, blah, blah. I'm currently using it to, like, at the very simple, but also really helpful, just to, like, have something to my side to, like, help organize notes. I made a producer AI, and I integrated that with Slack, or into Slack as a bot. So basically, that bot pulls overviews from Airtable and Slack, checks deliverables, reminds me of timelines, and that's all automated. So I have a couple other workflows where this tool called N8N is connected to that same bot. So every morning I have a digest of like things I have on my brain dump table where I just type the most random stuff. Because sometimes I just get overwhelmed with like, oh, I have a lot of projects I'm handling, but this client slacked me on this other workspace that I don't see it. I haven't emailed you, or I have you rescheduled 3 times for this podcast, and just a lot of different things. So on Slack, I actually have a brain dump Slack channel where I just say, in natural language, I say, hey, draft an update for the client. Remind me tomorrow at 5 p.m. It gets sent to Airtable. I do other stuff like, oh, make sure to text Tom about the podcast later this evening, and it would pick 6 p.m. or whatever. So the next morning, I would get that in the digest at 9 a.m. Here's some reminders you have for your workspace or whatever. And then I have it again at like 5 p.m. As an evening reminder, which I guess you could, use your iPhone. They have reminders too, but this is strictly for work. So I just want to keep as much as possible in one app, maybe two, which is Slack and Airtable. And to communicate with all that and orchestration of tools, I use Claude Desktop. And you stop me if it gets like too technical. But,
I'm gonna keep in mind that point you make, but go on. So you use Claude as well. So far, you talked about just using AI operationally. It helps you
for sure.
manage and operate everything you have going on better than if it didn't exist.
100%. Because I'll touch on another point before talking Claude. So every time I get a new project, this is something I borrowed from Let It Fly also, because I think our friend Clarissa, she's one of the orchestrators that came up with this workflow of like naming project number, let's say 25001, the year is 25, client name, project title. So anytime that gets made on Airtable, and it gets approved, it creates the lead into a project, that automation gets a channel created onto Slack. And so now we have a Slack channel, right? And now anytime I get an email from a client of massive notes or whatever, or a brief, I just directly copy all that email, paste it into that channel. Even though it's just me, I want to separate every single thing into its own channel just so I don't get confused. Because sometimes the email is just like a mess. So if I can just consolidate all specific project notes into one place, which is Slack channel, I'll just do that. Even though it's just me as one member in there. And then let's say I'm balancing 3 projects. I don't know what's going on or what I should prioritize. I just ask Claude, hey, look at the current active projects and summarize what's going on in the last 3 days or whatever, and create a roadmap for what I should focus on for the next 24 hours, 7 days, month. Because I even have it see my Airtable to forecast where I can take PTO, maybe plan a trip or something. So yeah, I use Claude more, or this whole system more as like you said, a production assistant, project manager, executive assistant, just to have me focus on the art as much as possible and have the operations kind of be managed on its own. And lastly, I'm currently working on moving everything from Claude into an offline AI agent. And we can go deeper into that, but
tell me, okay, so yeah,
I'll stop there for now.
No, you're good. I think, on the Claude desktop front, so you have a lot, because one of the things I like about AI that's been helpful for me, whether it's with Gemini or ChatGPT, is, and I tell people this who ask, like, why do you like AI? I'm like, well, my brain can get really cobwebbed, or it can, maybe not cobweb is the right term, but my brain can throw a bunch of stuff at me, and then it can all kind of get mixed up. And this creates straight lines for me. It straightens my brain out. So I like that it can help me the way it seems to help you with, hey, I have so much going on. I've lost track. I want to make sure that what I can uniquely offer clients is staying at the forefront. Help me pick up the pieces to keep that being the case. And with Claude Desktop and with you working with it to help you generate a roadmap, let's say, how often is it correct? How often are you sometimes having to be like, well, I didn't think about that, or it led me astray? The larger question here, Andy, is how much can you offload to AI and depend on it right now versus have to guard against it somewhat?
Oh, very good question and good point. Which is, well, I think what you're describing is hallucinations for sure. It'll just guess because
Or just not having enough
AI
information.
or that because it will just make up stuff or look at the wrong resources. So let's say you're doing research for something, some topic. It'll look at I would say the most probable result or something, but it might pull from an old website that's outdated or Reddit, which is not reliable really. So it's not always right. So to combat that, I get my prompts to be as secure as possible, if that makes sense. So I have it double check its own work, and I clearly state do not make up facts. If you don't know, it's okay to say no. As silly as that sounds, because again, AI is just gonna try and give you an answer and not give you no answer. If that makes sense.
It's so funny because what you just described is like managing a human. The amount of parallels I hear with prompting to managing a team member or delegating a task, it's so similar. I don't type in to ChatGPT like it's a machine. I talk to it like I'm messaging a team member, and if I don't include the right context or if I don't help prioritize what's most important to me about this task to the AI, you know, like you said, it wants to be confident. It wants to almost from like a business case establish a sense of dependency and trust. And so I don't know usually isn't good enough unless it has a really good justification for it, and it's saying, I don't know, and you're better off not with me guessing. So just that ability to trust or not trust, I think it just comes down to talking to it and treating it like it's another human being that's just really smart.
Yep. No, 100%. And before we dive deeper, I do make sure to, because some clients may or may in the future opt to not be involved with AI. So whether that's generative AI or art AI or even tools like this that help the producer, the business owner, they might not want to be involved with any of it, whether it's even their notes. So with those specific clients, I currently do opt them out and don't use any of the AI tools, just out of respect, in case they're worried about, I don't know, these companies training on their data or whatever might be the case. But that's why I said earlier, I'm moving into offline models like the Chinese models, DeepSeek, Quinn, I think is another one, Mistral. There's a bunch of other ones. Just to be even faster offline, and obviously privacy and all the data stays with me, never leaves through the internet or anywhere, any other leaks. Again, just purely out of privacy.
So you're using this for a better, more powerful version of Andy Torres, but then on the side, you have the ability to tap into a different form of assistance that has access to the internet that can be more up to date. And that's like what, a Gemini for you or a Claude for you,
Exactly.
basically? Okay.
Yeah, Gemini. Or if I'm building something, if I build something, it's going to be with Claude, specifically Opus 4.5. Really, really solid for coding. But as far as like any client reviews, I might opt, if I do end up using it, if I had to choose of using AI or not to review notes, I would use an offline model for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting time we're in, man. There's a lot of companies that are rightfully and I think smartly protecting against just going all the way in on let's AI everything, be it for legal reasons, be it for, well, we want to understand what this means for our structure and for, you know, what we're creating that's going to interface with our audience. There's just so many big questions. So I appreciate that you have some folks on your side who are hiring you who are saying, let's do this responsibly and correctly rather than just give in to this big fad. At the same time, it feels like more than a fad. It feels like a very transformational tool. And on a bigger level, I'm curious, for someone especially in your position, man, as a VFX artist, one of the first things that started coming out was all this stuff about you can create essentially what you put so many hours into creating and what you've worked really hard to do. Does the thought of AI showing up in actual client work that way scare you, piss you off? Are you indifferent about it for now? Where do you fall on all that, given that you clearly have an interest in AI, knowing that it is also purported to be coming for what you do best?
No, solid question. I think I talked about this briefly last year on a different podcast, maybe a year and a half, actually. Yeah, a year and a half. And back then my answer was no, like if you see the art right now, it's generative art. It's very, if you can call it that, art.
Fun question to unpack later, but keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Yeah, but back then I would say, oh, like it's so bad, like all these inconsistencies, inaccurate physics, blah blah blah, lighting. No, it's we're all safe. Like it's fine. Like no, there's no need to worry. But now it's, I even get tricked with videos, like from Sora, and now other Kling models dropped, other whatever dropped.
Nano
so
banana.
To answer your question about like exactly Nano banana for images, so to answer your question of like if I'm worried, was that question if I'm worried about it coming to, let's say, for my job or
sure, yeah. I guess that's the crux of it. Yeah, go for it.
I would say currently, and you can ask me again in another year and a half, but I'm currently not worried because the conversations I've had with clients and other freelancers that get contracted out for those other big projects, they tend to want a human in the loop, still making those assets. I also hear though that they might be in a time crunch and might need to rely on AI to have like, oh, we forgot this one shoot on set or this one photo on set, and so they opt to use AI to help them out with that. Not fully rely on it, but they went on set, they forgot something, they use AI to make up that image, and it's pretty accurate, especially nowadays. Specifically images with Nano Banana Pro with Gemini 3. It's insane. So I'll say currently at this moment, I'm not worried because of the fact that conversations I've had with clients have been the opposite, where they actually don't want to use or don't want me to use, these tools. And I don't want to use them either to fully do a whole project purely on generative AI. Well, it's trained on other people's work, no? So it just feels ethically wrong to profit off of other people's work and passing it as my own. One might say, yeah, you think of the idea, and so how is that different from you think of an idea, but the AI person is, creating it in like a couple prompts. And then some people say, how bad it is with like, specifically, I think the Coca-Cola one. This is what I'm just reading. I'm not taking a side right now or taking this side.
No, that one's developed quite a bit of discourse.
Yeah. They went through like, I don't want to make up numbers, but they went through a lot of different prompts, and they still had to use a ton of different artists to clean up those. So they probably could have gotten away with hiring only humans and not wasting all that electricity. Again, I'm quoting loosely from other people, and they shouldn't have wasted all that energy on electricity on creating those random prompts to try and get the vision right.
Big picture, what how do you feel about it? Where are we headed?
I don't know. It's I feel like it's scary. I mean, I've seen a lot of listened to a lot of podcasts where they talk about AI not just for creative, but a lot of other jobs, and to reel it back into creative, I think eventually it would take over everything except concrete videography jobs, photography jobs, like weddings. I feel like I wouldn't want, hey, can you make up images of my wedding? Here are pictures of me and my wife. Just make up cool. I don't want that.
Someone's
going to
do it. We're gonna hate that. We're gonna hate them so much.
Live events, I feel like, are going to be safe for a long time, until eventually maybe they have an Optimus robot man the cameras. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't there already like data trackers on golf balls?
Oh yeah. You can absolutely, for certain sports, already envision a future in which that is automated, which stinks. And sorry, you were going to say something else before I.
No, it just like if that's been there for a while now, like how much more of a lift would it be to have some sort of tracker to connect to a robotics arm camera, or the camera itself is automated to track these trackers? Why wouldn't people just do that? You see, that's why we're like going to like a deep doomsday type of rabbit hole. So
well, when you're not affected,
currently, I'm not worried about it.
Well, when you're not affected personally, so this is one of the most interesting things about the AI discussion, especially in creative. When you are not personally affected, it is much easier to make a case for, oh yeah, they could absolutely automate how the golf balls are traced in the air, and those cameras can just go back and forth on their own and be controlled by one person managing 7 cameras instead of 7 operators or something. And then it knocks on your door, and you go, well, wait a second. No, this matters. This has it requires me. I have to put my expertise in it. And I think one of the most important things to remember as AI continues to grow and evolve is it affects us all very differently. And for some people, you might say, gosh, I love that ChatGPT or Gemini can help me with this tedious task. And someone might go, I loved doing that tedious task, and now I can't do it. No one's going to pay me to do it. Whether you're an entry-level person or someone just trying to prove that you've worked with someone on a task that's maybe not hugely important, but you can still put your name towards it. That part is pretty tough right now, and I think some people who are... It's just very difficult to try to maintain this level-headedness through all of it, because it is such a different feeling that's exhibited based on how it touches you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, to touch on your point of AI taking over these tedious tasks, but some people might really enjoy those tedious tasks, and now it's gone, and now they're not as fulfilled or have that joy in their work. Earlier I did say what makes me a creative human is the process of learning, and seeing every pixel I made was 100% intentional. And even though some tasks do take a while, I do learn some things here and there, and it is satisfying. I think there's a meme, and I'll send it to you later if you want to post it on the video. But
yeah,
it's this image of have you seen The Social Network?
Only 100 million times.
Only 100 times. At the very end, it's spoiler, but when
they've had 15 years to watch this movie.
Yeah, they've had 15 years.
Yeah.
When he's at the very end by himself at this long table, just looking back, just like, the deed is done, and just keeps clicking enter or refresh and refresh and refresh, just bored out of his mind. The caption is like, me watching AI do the job I used to love. Just prompt and refresh. I like this. No, I don't like that.
That's why, because, okay, this is true and I hate it, which really sums up a lot of AI, in my opinion. It's true and I hate it. It's true that if you are in a creative field right now and there are AI tools that can sort of do what you do, I think one of the most important things you can do is start to learn how to articulate, aka prompt, what you do well and how you think. This is a skill that more people are going to have to start to pick up on, because while I think AI is going to be coming for some of those tedious things. Like, everyone's still going to want to trust a human because we trust each other inherently more than we trust a machine. But your job might look a bit different than is used to.
I think about it here and there of like, why are we making, like, what's the point of making all these tools? Because on the other side, non-creative related, it's dangerous because they look, well, it depends on how you prompt things, but these images that AI creates look no different than any other photograph or video. And like I said earlier, I've gotten tricked by AI where I think the popular video a couple months ago was the bunnies on the trampoline. I don't know if you saw that one.
I did.
But that webcam type of look, yeah, it tricked me. I thought it was real until they started dancing or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the non-creative side, it's just dangerous. So why are we making these tools? I get where they can be helpful, but I feel like too many cons than pros to these tools. Again, I feel like, I don't know. I'm still debating within myself like how I feel about it. But
Well, in some ways,
it's again in a year and a half.
Yeah, man. I think we can all agree it's nice if it is used to make a process better without displacing industries. And I had Jack Mayo on before, and Jack says, I still use a Illustrator to draw my storyboards. I don't. Jack and I work on completely different things. I don't do that. I don't need to. So it's been helpful for me to use AI to get through a storyboarding phase or through a shared vision with much more clarity. Like, that's good in theory. It's not affecting too much, and I was never going to call the Illustrator anyway, even though I love illustrators for different projects.
I think you mentioned it earlier that humans just trust other humans more than a robot, and I feel like that's currently our saving grace. That, and again, I've heard it from conversations with freelancers, with clients, that we're gonna pick the humans almost every time, if not every time. So that's why I'm currently not worried about it. But even with me, like you mentioned, illustrators, sometimes I come across a need for a graphic design for some sort of element for this animation, but I need a graphic design piece. In theory, I could just type it out and prompt it out and steal someone's work, but I'm not going to. It just feels wrong, and I would rather just contact that person and say, hey, you want to hop on this project? Because it's also cool to work with other humans. And let's say for this Stranger Things piece, if it was just me and I did everything, that just is kind of not fulfilling. I'd rather work with a lot other people, and even if I earn a lot less, it's just I want to be around people. Which is funny saying that because I'm a freelancer, but again, I'm still working on a plan for next year. But keep a lookout for a lot more on set and more humans along me, more teammates.
I think a lot of people's fears in the creative industry are rooted in this sense that at some point, creative decision makers will say, it is no longer in our best business interest to pay creators what we've been paying them, and we need to start taking more shortcuts. And that is already probably happening in some ways that I'm not attuned to. If it happens too much, you are depleting an industry of the reason why the industry is successful in the first place and where AI is pulling from for all these years. I mean, even in pieces that feel a bit on the corporate side or it's branded content, sometimes like decisions that are made on those pieces are rooted in a very particular individual's personal lived experience. And creativity is the sum of so many human beings' lived experience or risk taking or trial and error. And I just think that in the long run, I hope we continue to look at AI as a tool to make it easier to work together, to bring more creativity to life, but that creativity is stemming from human beings, because creativity from a machine is not, to us, art or creativity. It doesn't have a point of view. And one of the best things about watching anything that anyone creates, especially you, by the way, is knowing there's a guy sitting down and creating that. And you could make the same argument if you had dictated it and prompted it, but I think it's way cooler that that's not the case, that you actually have a greater stake in it than just dictating, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man. I mean, you see the reactions online and just the people's stance on AI. Once they find out it's AI made, that it flips, because again, humans just want to trust other humans, not a robot. So yeah, man. It's it's really tricky out there. Go ahead.
I was just saying, we have to continue. How do you feel about this? The idea of, because everyone's overworked, right? In some cases, you work really hard. I think we have to do more to showcase how things are human made, whether it's BTS, whether it's, however you want to determine it. But I feel like right now, these tools are so good that you can't tell. And it's going to get even worse, that you just can't tell that it's AI. People will no longer have an impetus to cry out AI. They just won't know. Unless that they don't see an accompanying, here's how humans did it with it. Then they'll go, well, where is that? Where's the human part of this? I want to see the human part of this. How do you feel about that thought exercise?
Well, it's funny you say that, because now Nano Banana 3 or whatever it's called,
Pro, yeah,
can make a behind the scenes look. So I think,
but it's not true. It's fictional.
It's not true though, but it looks real. First, I was watching a TikTok where they were showing behind the scenes of Harry Potter on a green screen, and I was like, oh, that's kind of sick. And then I kept watching, and I'm like, wait, something's off about this. I checked the comments. The fact that someone said the fact that a lot of people don't realize this is AI is concerning, and I'm like, man, we're cooked.
I got.
Dang. But yeah, it's but
you're not
experience.
But you're not hearing from crew members or seeing what crew members are. You're just seeing this one thing that you can't attribute back to a human, which I guess is the scary thing in all this. But as long as you can attribute it back to a human creator, heck, if I was coming out of college and just trying to get some work right now, I would just go make BTS for everybody and be like, let me help you showcase how you're working, because people will endear your audience to you more.
Yeah, no, I definitely think now more than ever, I just hate using the word, the authenticity of
it's true.
Your work is the new gold, or the gold now. Because that's so valued, even more so now with all these tools, being live and recreating work that could look like yours. Yeah, authenticity, showing behind the scenes.
Okay, we've done some deep dives. Any other AI thoughts before we bring it back to humans for the last 15 minutes here?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I have I 99% use AI, again, more for the operations side. And even that, I'm moving into local offline. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM me or email me, whatever. Happy to hop on a call. Love learning about these tools and being able to move it offline. It's crazy that we have this tech now that we can get these massive AI brains, I guess, models onto our own laptops and not share any data with these big entities, and just be on your own and safe if you want to use AI responsibly. But yeah, generative AI, I don't use In client work, I feel like I wouldn't fully rely on it as a crutch. But I mean, the tools are getting better and better. So I feel like there would be cases where if a client is really asking for it, there might be a need to use that. But if I'd had to use it, I would make it known up front, like, hey, is it okay if we use AI to accomplish this vision for this budget, for this timeline? And most 9 times out of 10, it's mostly for the timeline, because, yeah, it's, turnaround is fast sometimes. So, yeah, but currently that's not the case. So not going to worry about that right now.
If I can be an optimist to close out the AI part of this discussion, what you just brought up, people don't understand how to hire for AI just yet. That might become a skill that some creatives have who want to sacrifice their integrity. I will say that twice, want to sacrifice their integrity to be AI first creators. They might present that to clients and say, hey, here's how you can save money, and I'll hold your hand through it. But right now, decision makers don't know how. Forget everything you're saying about all the other considerations they have. They just don't know how to say, this is what's sensible from a price standpoint. This is the quality we can expect. This is the timeline we can expect. It's just so new. So there's so much time for this to still be worked out. I would also add right now that, the environmental concerns, the business concerns for companies like OpenAI, there are so many reasons why this is going to hit more and more roadblocks, and why I just don't see it being doomsday scenario as quickly as a lot of people do. I see a long-term future, Andy, where if what you're pointing out, the bunnies on the trampoline, if the chances of getting got by fake slop content on social media are such that you're getting got all the time, people are just going to stop getting on social media. They're going to go away. And social media platforms are going to become less important. And if that's the case, which there's already a lot of research around if it's good or not for our health, mostly saying it's not good for our health, then what happens? And I think that would be a decent thing to minimize social media and to do less of this algorithmic, let's just hope for the best. And it sort of brings the quality to noise ratio back in the favor of creators, where our skills are much more relied upon for quality. And that's what we all want. That would actually put the onus back on us doing what we know how to do the best way we can. So even in a doomsday scenario like social media dies, I still see a positive future for people who are listening to this podcast, because it just doesn't feel like it's one or the other to me.
Yeah, Ben. No, 100%. I agree with you. One more comment about the thing you just said about all AI entities. I feel like that's super risky because of the perception that the public has of these tools being used. So, oh man, I don't want to name the client, but not my client, but someone posted a fully AI made video, and the comments just were getting at them. And it's like, man, that was a risky one, but it's tough. But no, I agree with you on the getting off social media and just bringing back more of the in-person hangouts, the in-person workflows, and just connecting even more with humans. I feel like that's the positive part I see about AI, and these tools being a displacer for other jobs.
It hopefully filters out a lot of the bad, truly. And it gets us back to actually knowing what makes us human and why we like being human. And I don't think that people are going to stop watching things. They'll just turn their attention elsewhere, and we'll keep creating stuff that winds up going there. Okay. Wow, we've broken our brains. Let's take a deep breath. And I always love finishing the show with, I say I always love, I've done 3 of these, Andy. Wow, I'm acting like this is a long-term thing already. Hopefully it is.
Manifest it.
Manifesting, man. LeVar Ball. So I always love bringing it back to people. And I'd love to know from your POV, man, who are some creators that you want to shout out that you're seeing right now that you're like, yes, they are crushing it. Either they are well known and you just want to pile on and say, well done, or they are not as well known and you'd love to gas them up and hopefully get them some more eyeballs via this show.
Yeah, man. No, so have a couple names. I know my guy Alex McMeekin. He's at Van Wagner. He does a lot of work for a lot of big entities. So he's brought me on for a couple projects, but he actually doesn't post much on his page. But he's super talented and a visionary for sure. I have my guy Emilio Tico Dev on Instagram.
Tico Dev.
I
love Tico Dev.
The number one homie. Super clutch, super talented and fast. I love that guy. And my guy Aiden Wild, super talented, visionary too. I mean, I can go on and on. Cam Beverly, he's a homie. Yeah, man, there's a lot of people I definitely want to shout out, but those are the first ones I think of when I think day ones for sure.
Love it, man. Parting thoughts on being a freelancer in this business right now. How do you feel about it for people who are either have been in it for a while and wondering what other people's opinions are about their next move, or maybe people who are just thinking about getting into it? Overall thoughts on the state of the biz as a freelancer from your POV?
Yeah, I might butcher the quote, but I think I read somewhere where it's like, yeah, I quit my job working 40 hours just to work 80 hours as a freelancer or something. I find that true. Maybe not literally, but I feel like I work a lot more than if I was at a full time. Regardless if it was at the agency we were at or a different, workplace. The hardest part is learning to turn work off. But I am getting better with every year. But there are seasons where it gets really, really busy. So much so that, there's a couple all-nighters, which I don't really like anymore. But again, I want to make sure the client is well and, they're taken care of, whether it's maybe a mishap that happened with communication, or maybe we thought of a new idea and we actually really want to make that idea happen. So I'm all in. Let's make this vision happen. But yeah, some other parts of the seasons are quiet. So that's where I'm learning to reset, learn some new stuff, build more systems that, make everything a lot more efficient. So I can, in theory, work less and be stress-free. But yeah, man, freelance, I would say, is freedom with responsibility. So if you come into this, not industry, if you come into this lifestyle of freelance, just know, what you're getting yourself into. A lot of freedom, but you got to be responsible with your time, disciplined, and always learning for sure. So if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I won't know all the answers, but I feel like I know a lot, and we have a lot of tools now to help with that. Again, one more comment about the AI stuff. That's what I'm really relying on AI to get all my scatterbrain notes in one place to digest every message every morning. Hey, this is what you have. Relax. I'm taking care of that side of the brain. You can just focus on work and being a creative human.
That is well put to end things. I mean, that's why we can tolerate this part of AI, Andy, is because it's not interfering with what you feel like is driving you from a position of purpose. That's a question we all got to ask ourselves: is what's my purpose in all this, and what am I not willing to offload versus what am I willing to say? You know what? This is maybe a smart decision that's going to help me do what is my purpose better, and fulfill it. All right. Andy, we did it, man. We had so many different reschedulings and schedulings, but we managed to catch up again. Always a pleasure chatting with you, and thanks so much for coming on.
No, I appreciate you having me on, man. Great to catch up, and yeah, excited to see where this podcast heads.
It might go nowhere, but it might go somewhere great. Who knows? I'm excited for it. He is Andy Torres _A on Instagram. This has been Creative Human. I would love if you could follow us on Spotify, if you could subscribe on YouTube. We're always going to be posting our full episodes there, and follow along on our Instagram channel at Creative Human Pod that is going to be posting every update from each episode just so you don't miss one. With that, this has been Creative Human. Thanks for listening.